Eckstein here. Today I want to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, normally when we think of post-traumatic stress disorder, we think about human beings, coming back from war, first responders. We think of all of that when we start to think about post-traumatic stress disorder. But what about animals? Animals can suffer as well. What it basically is severe anxiety disorder that results from an extremely traumatic experience, whether it be a dog coming back from war. I was working with many of the NYPD canine dogs at Ground Zero right after the 9/11 attacks. And some of these dogs showed symptoms of PTSD. But a lot of things can cause it. It's not just dogs that are military dogs or police dogs working in situations, or search and rescue dogs under all the traumatic situations they have to deal with. It could be your dog at home. Why do I say that? You know, I've worked with literally thousands and thousands of dogs, over 40,000. And I've been on the radio and TV with you guys for years and years and years. And very often I hear people question me about their dog's behavior. And when I think about what they're saying, what it refers to me is that this dog is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. But it's not a war dog. It's not a search and rescue dog. What happens? Lots of times extreme abuse or cruelty can cause post-traumatic stress disorder as well. And that's primarily what I deal with on a regular basis. So when people call me up and they say, listen, I rescued a dog from a shelter, I brought him home, but I brought him back because he was crazy or he was aggressive. There are ways to resolve these issues, and every dog deserves a fair chance to get through this, just like people do. Symptoms include a lot of different things. In fact, I actually wrote down a list of symptoms that can be caused by post-traumatic stress syndrome. And it breaks my heart because so many of the dogs I've rescued, and I've taken dogs out of dog fighting rings and horrible situations, they don't all turn out to be rin tin tin, but following good solid advice and good solid programs, they can be resolved. But I want to tell you the symptoms. Here are the symptoms that can be included if your dog may be suffering from post-traumatic stress. Now, remember, these don't mean that your dog is suffering if it has one of these symptoms. It would take a professional, a veterinarian or behaviorist to really figure it out. But here are some of the symptoms. If the dog includes a panicking, panting excessively, the dog is fearful, maybe your dog's acting timid, very clingy to their guardians, aggressive reactions. This is the big one. Aggressive reactions in dogs that were never aggressive before. That can be caused by, for example, my own little guy, Willie. I adopted Willie and Molly probably just about 3 years ago. And Molly's kind of come through, but Willie was really, really abused. They cut his tail without anesthesia. And he's one of those excited dogs. And I'm sure they got hit a lot and whacked a lot. And it's taken me almost 3 years to get him through, and I'm still working on it. So a lot of these problems can really be created that are long, long lasting. And he shows, when I first got him, when I pick him up, he growled. And I'd say, knock it off. And we've gotten through that. But post-traumatic stress syndrome is really important for people that are adopting and rescue people to understand. Depression can be part of it. Hypervigilance, especially for working dogs and guard breeds. Working dogs such as military and canine dogs with PTSD often shut down and actually refuse to work. And there are things that you can do, though. And that's really, really important. I've always taken the approach, never give up. If there's a dog with a problem, I'm going to try to resolve it. And as I say, so many of my listeners will call up and, well, I had this dog, and you hear go to the shelters, and I had this dog for 3 days, and he growled at me, and I brought him back to the shelter because he's an aggressive dog, and the people at the shelter say, you're right, he's an aggressive dog, and he's not an aggressive dog. Dogs can react out of fear, just like I said, if they've been suffering with post-traumatic stress syndrome. So now that I've told you what it is, can it be resolved? Absolutely. This is what I deal with every single day. There's two ways to approach it. In really severe cases, the veterinarian may prescribe anti-anxiety medications. But anti-anxiety medications are not the resolution. And in severe cases, behavioral resolutions are not the resolutions. In severe cases, it takes the veterinarian working with the behaviorist to resolve the issue. So it's a combination in extreme cases of anti-anxiety drugs in conjunction with behavior work. But at the same time, in some cases, it's not that severe. Maybe the anti-anxiety drugs are not needed. Maybe just some behavior work is the way to approach it. And there's something we call systematic desensitization. What does that mean? Whatever the dog is really fearful, what the trigger point is, maybe it's a loud noise, or maybe it's your hand over your head, whatever that is, what we need to do is gradually let the dog know that these things are nothing to be fearful of, nothing to worry about. So for example, if I have a dog that's afraid of, loud noises, I'll play a recording of a loud noise at a very low volume, and over a period of months, sometimes longer than months, I'll increase it gradually till the dog is actually desensitized to it. So these are things you need to take into consideration. So hear me out on this. If you're looking to adopt a dog, and God bless you people for doing that, especially those who adopt the older dogs and the dogs with challenges. When you bring them home, expect some challenges. Maybe they've been through an awful lot. How do you think they wound up at the shelter? Maybe there were strays on the street being chased. Who knows? But please give them some time. Work with the behaviorist. Work with your veterinarian. Let me give you a statistic that I believe. I don't think it can be valid. I don't think I can prove it. But having worked with over 40,000 animals, I have a good deal with it. I would say that 85 to 90% of dogs that suffer with post-traumatic stress syndrome, um, they're not all going to be perfect, but they can be made enjoyable, livable, and they can have the quality of life that they deserve. So the next time you look at a dog or think about post-traumatic stress syndrome, don't think it's just people. Animals are affected as well. I've talked about dogs, but it can affect cats also. We'll talk about more of this on the show, but I want you to remember that when you adopt a dog, it's a commitment for life. So try to understand why the dog is behaving a certain way, and you, as the new guardian, should work with behaviorists and your veterinarian to resolve any issues you may be having. Hey, talk to you guys on the Pet Show.